Dear friends, please stop wasting your money on stamp duties. Simply do this. Yes, dear friends, please stop wasting your money on stamp duties. Simply do what we're going to show you. Stop wasting your money on stamp duties due largely to lack of sufficient knowledge or information. Consequently, this video has been specially put together to educate you and deepen your knowledge on the imposition, benefits, operationality, and compliance of stamp duties. Dear friends, you will recall that recently Taxcorp cleared the air on the powers of the tax authorities to take your money in the bank, take over your business premises, confiscate your assets such as motor vehicles, buildings, trading stock, etc., sell off your business anywhere in the world without your consent and without a court order to pay off your tax, which has become due, payable, final, and conclusive, and which you have dodged, refused, or failed to pay. We are very pleased that this clarification and elucidation have hugely cleared the various misconceptions and conflicting positions which many people hold and have been putting out to tax stakeholders, as our position is the incontrovertible position of the law, as clearly stipulated in Section 60 and 61 of the Nigerian Tax Administration Act 2025. But please note that tax authority cannot, please repeat, cannot just wake up one morning and confiscate your money in the bank or your belongings such as motor vehicles, buildings, trading stock, etc. anywhere in the world. They will only resort to this option if you dodge, refuse, or fail to pay your tax, which has become due, payable, final, and conclusive. For imposition and payment of stamp duties, you should not be frightened. You should not panic when you hear stamp duties. Why? Stamp duties does not kill. Indeed, stamp duties or stamp duty simply means the duty you pay to government for government or the state to legally recognize your documents, for the document to be legally binding on the parties to the instrument and also to the document, and therefore make both the document and the instrument enforceable at the law court. And you know what? The amount you pay for stamp duty can be as little as 50 naira. Do you know that whether you transfer 10,000 naira, 10 million naira, 100 million naira, 1 billion naira, 100 billion naira, 1 trillion, and other higher values, that your stamp duty can just remain at 50 naira? And you ask, so why the big noise about stamp duty? And let me say something here, please. Recently, many people have been calling and asking about tax. How do they even know their income to pay their tax? Is it their money in the bank that is their income? My brother, my sister, your money in the bank is not your income. It could be your capital. To know your income or profit, please document and record all your financial transactions as you make them, and periodically add them up to ascertain and know your total income, your total expenses, and your total profit for that period. That is easy, right? If you want assistance, then contact Taxcorp and then go and play golf or chopping kwabi. Frankly, the key issue you may have in taxation generally is lack of adequate and correct information, and that is exactly what Taxcorp videos have been clarified to deal with in this particular video. In this stamp duty video in particular, you will get to know the golden rule of tax freedom, the golden rule of stamp duty, the fundamental meaning of stamp duty, dutable instruments, exempted instruments, operationality of stamp duty, etc. You will also get to know the common characteristics of stamp duties, types, and the rest of stamp duties, persons responsible for paying stamp duties, when, where, how to pay stamp duties, and the various modes of denoting stamping of documents. You also learn the relevant tax authorities responsible for administering and collecting stamp duties, stamp dutable instruments, their types and rates of duty, persons responsible and exemptions, then full list of exempted instruments, and the offenses and penalties under stamp duties. All you need to do is to just follow us to the end of this video, listening attentively, and also stay with Taxcorp channel on YouTube as we release various videos for the education and enlightenment of tax stakeholders and the general public. And to get the videos hot and fresh, kindly like, subscribe, hit the notification button now, and share so that as many people as possible will be notified and sufficiently educated. And you know what? Your life will never remain the same. What are you going to learn in this video? You're going to learn the golden rule of tax freedom, the fundamental meaning of stamp duties, dutiable instruments, and others, the key objective of stamp duties, the golden rule of stamp duty, the key components of the golden rule of stamp duty, common characteristics of stamp duty, mode of denoting stamp duties, timeline for stamping instruments, the general rule for payment of stamp duties, the two types of stamp duties, legal consequence of not stamping dutable instruments in civil proceedings, the relevant tax authority for stamp duty, some dutable instruments, types and rates of duties, and persons liable to pay stamp duty, exempted instruments from stamp duties, miscellaneous provisions, stamp duties, offences, and penalties, list of the 22 interdependent compasses about Taxcorp and the authors. Now, the golden rule of tax freedom. Dear friend, can I ask you a question? Do you really want to be free from tax wahala? No disturbance of your sleep by a taxman, no knocking at your door by a tax lady, no receipt of long queries by your business from a tax controller, no receipt for unsolicited reminders or threats by your company, no blocking of your bank accounts by the tax chairman, no debiting of your bank account at the directive of a tax authority, no barging into you or your business by law enforcement officers, no forceful entry into your business premises by tax officers, law enforcement officers, no threat of imprisonment by a law court, no selling of your business or exercises without a court order after the tax has become final and conclusive by the Nigerian Revenue Service. Dear friend, if your answer to this compound question is a capital yes, then obey the golden rule of tax freedom. And you ask, what is this golden rule of tax freedom? I will tell you that it is the three C's. And what are the three C's? Comply, comply, and comply. The fundamental meaning of stamp duties, dutable instruments and others. Friend, please, in dealing with stamp duties, you have to first of all clearly understand what is meant by stamp duties, instruments, dutable instruments, and the execution of instruments. Stamp duty is a duty imposed on dutable instruments at rates prescribed by law, which is paid either by the provider or beneficiary of the instrument or both to the relevant tax authority for the primary objective of authenticating and validating, legalizing and making the instrument enforceable at the law court. So what is dutable instrument? A dutable instrument is simply any instrument for which stamp duty is legally required to be paid for it to be legally recognized as valid, authentic, and admissible in court. According to Section 124 of Nigerian Tax Act 2025, a dutable instrument is any instrument which is first executed in Nigeria or excluded outside Nigeria relates to any property situated or any matter or thing done in Nigeria. Execution of an instrument simply means signing, sealing, and delivery of an instrument, which is expected to be done by all parties to the instrument. Simply put, a dutable instrument is any instrument which is signed, sealed, and delivered first in Nigeria, or signed, sealed, and delivered outside Nigeria, and relates to any property situated or to any property, any matter, thing done in Nigeria. So what then is an instrument? With respect to stamp duty, an instrument is any instrument that is manual or electronic document that creates, transfers, limits, extends, extinguishes, records, or evidences a legal right or liability. Examples of stamp duty instruments are agreements such as rental agreements, contracts, invoices, receipts, deeds, bonds, certificates, emails, SMS, WhatsApp, PDF, power of attorney, certificate of occupancy, proxy forms, etc. You can see that dutable instruments are written or electronic documents that evidence legal rights or liabilities in dutable transactions. Key gaining a deeper understanding of the key components of definition of stamp duty. The key components of the definition of stamp duty are six. Yes, six. They are stamp duty is a form of tax. It is imposed on dutable instruments at rates prescribed by law, which is paid either by the provider or beneficiary of the instrument or both to the relevant tax authority for the primary objective of authenticating and validating, legalizing and making the instrument enforceable at the law court. Stamp duty is a form of tax. It is obligatory and not voluntary. It is not something you just do when you like. No, you have to comply where required. However, it is imposed only on dutable instruments, that is, written or electronic documents which create legal right or liability, and for which stamp duties are legally required to be paid on for them to be legally recognized as valid and authentic, admissible in court. Otherwise, they will have no legal recognition. Stamp duties are imposed at risk prescribed by law. There is no uncertainty. Similarly, law stipulates who has the obligation to pay stamp duty, either the provider or beneficiary of the instrument or both. A corollary objective of the stamp duty is to generate revenue for government. Whoever that is obligated to pay stamp duty pays to the appropriate tax authority, federal or state. The key objective of stamp duty is for the instrument to be legally recognized by the state. Otherwise, the agreement entered into or the transaction that you conduct is purely a private affair. Key objectives of stamp duty, I repeat, are legal and state recognition of your instrument transactions and agreements, authentication and validation of the instruments, agreements, and documents, legalization and enforceability of instruments, agreements, and documents at the court. The golden rule of stamp duty. The golden rule of stamp duty is that it is only instruments which are first signed, sealed, and delivered in Nigeria, signed, sealed, and delivered outside Nigeria, and laid to any property situated or to any matter or thing done in Nigeria that are eligible for stamp duty taxation in Nigeria. Meaning, any instrument which is signed, sealed, and delivered second or later in Nigeria is not dutable in Nigeria. Please note that. Similarly, any instrument which is signed, sealed, and delivered outside Nigeria but does not relate to any property situated or any matter or thing done in Nigeria is what? Not dutable in Nigeria. Dutable instruments are written or electronic documents that create or evidence legal right or liability, and which are legally required to have stamp to paid on them for them to be legally recognized as valid, authentic, and admissible in the court. Closer look at the key components of the golden rule of stamp duty. Only instruments which are first signed, sealed, and delivered in Nigeria, and not second signed, sealed, or delivered in Nigeria, no second hand, or signed, sealed, and delivered outside Nigeria, whether first or second hand, and relate to any property situated to or any matter or thing done in Nigeria must relate to a property situated or matter thing done in Nigeria are eligible for stamp duty taxation in Nigeria. Consequently, there are two categories of instruments which are eligible for taxation in Nigeria. So if your instrument does not fall into any of these categories, then it is not dutable in Nigeria. The first is instruments which are first signed, sealed, and delivered in Nigeria are dutable in Nigeria. And instruments signed, sealed, and delivered outside Nigeria and relate to any property situated or to any matter or thing done in Nigeria. These two categories are the only categories of instruments which are dutable in Nigeria. Please take note of this. Common characteristics of stamp duties. Now, stamp duty is a form of tax. Stamp duty is an indirect tax. It's not a direct tax. The payer of stamp duty bears the final burden of stamp duty. Stamp duty burden is not transferable. Stamp duty is imposed or charged on dutable instruments. Dutable instruments are written or electronic documents that create legal rights or liabilities, and for which stamp duties are required to be paid for, then to be legally recognized, binding, and enforceable at the law court. The primary objective of paying stamp duty and evidencing stamp duty is for the instrument to be legally recognized, binding, and enforceable at the law court. Otherwise, they are not enforceable at the law court. A corollary objective of stamp duty is to generate revenue for government. The nature, value, and government policy determine amount of stamp duty to be paid. There are two types of stamp duties. There is the ad valorem stamp duty, which is based on the value of the dutable transaction, and there is a flat amount stamp duty, which is fixed by government irrespective of the value of the dutable transaction. Stamping of duty is denoted and evidenced on dutable instruments in many ways, including affixing Nigerian Revenue Service adhesive stamps. Generally, the beneficiary of the instrument is responsible for paying the stamp duty, but the law may provide for the provider or both to pay. The federal government, through the Nigerian Revenue Service, is responsible for administering and collecting stamp duties between companies and between companies and individuals, while the state entire revenue service, including the federal capital entire revenue service, are responsible for stamp duties on debitable instruments or transactions between individuals. Stamp duty, please watch it, is a time-sensitive tax as you have to pay it within 30 days of execution of the instrument, which means signing, sealing, and delivery. Now, what are the manners, the ways you can denote stamp duties? There are six, and the first one is thank stamps, a die, electronic or digital tagging, electronic receipt, issuance of certificate, or any other means as may be determined by the relevant tax authority. So, what's the timeline for stamping instruments executed in Nigeria? Section 126 of NTA 2025 states that every instrument executed in Nigeria chargeable with a duty as prescribed under provisions of the stamp duty of NTA 2025 shall be stamped not later than 30 days after its execution. Not later than 30 days after execution, I repeat, by the person required to pay the appropriate duty. Now, the general rule for payment of stamp duty. The general rule for payment of stamp duty is that the beneficiary of the instrument is responsible for paying stamp duty. Section 126(2) of NTA 25 states that a person being the transferee of interest in real property other than in voluntary disposition during the lifetime of the transferor or beneficiary of a service for which consideration was paid, or any other person taking the security in a transaction for which an instrument is executed shall be responsible for paying the duty relating to transaction. Schedule 9 of NTA gives details. However, in bank transfers, the transferor pays the stamp duty. Now, the two types of stamp duty. First is the ad valorem stamp duty, which is a type of stamp duty that is imposed according to the value of the transaction on which stamp duty is being paid. The more the value, the more stamp duty you pay in this category. The second category is called the flat amount stamp duty. It is a stamp duty that is imposed at a fixed amount, irrespective of the value of the transaction for which stamp duty is being paid. Relevant tax authorities that are responsible for the administration and collection of stamp duties. First is the Nigerian Revenue Service, which collects all stamp duties between companies and individuals. Then while you have the State Internal Revenue Service, including the Federal Capital Territory Internal Revenue Service, are responsible for transactions between individuals only. Now, here we have the dutiable instruments, the type of duties, the rates of duty, and the people and the persons liable to pay for the stamp duty. This is actually Schedule 9 of the Nigerian Tax Act. So we just highlighted some of them just to show you examples. For you to get the details, please go to the 9th schedule of the Nigerian Tax Administration Act. For instance, agreement for sale of real property is the type of duty is ad valorem. The rate of duty is 1.5%. And who is liable to pay? The transferee. Any exemption? There is no exemption. So the same way you have capital duty on loan capital, it is an ad valorem type of stamp duty. The rate is 0.125%, and who pays? It is the borrower. So you have the last one we put here, which is electronic transfer or transfer of 10,000 naira upwards. It is a fixed duty where you pay only 50 naira, and who pays it? The transferor. So when you transfer money to people, you pay the stamp duty, and it's largely 50 naira. So the noise people have been making about stamp duty being unbearable, being too much, is misplaced. Now, in addition, government has been so nice to exempt a lot of instruments from stamp duties. Now, Just like we told you, this is one of the best tax regimes we have had in Nigeria, if not the best. So here are the exempting instruments from stamp duties. First is money paid into one's own account or transferred electronically between accounts of the same owner within the same bank, not different bank. Please note this. If you transfer your money from a Zenith Bank branch to a Zenith Bank, another Zenith Bank branch, you don't pay stamp duty. If you transfer your money within the same branch of Zenith Bank, you don't pay stamp duty. But once you transfer from your account to another account, whether it is within the same branch or different banks, you pay stamp duty. So electronic transfer or electronic receipt of money of a sum below 10,000 or its equivalent in other currencies. Transfer for salary payment. Intra-bank self-transfers. Transfer between same owner within same bank. You don't pay stamp duty. Overdraft at the bank, you don't pay stamp duty. Loan raised for a period not exceeding 12 months, you don't pay stamp duty. Loan obtained for onward disbursement. Insurance policies on personal or household effects, you don't pay stamp duty. All documents relating to the transfer of stocks and shares, stockbrokers, you don't have stamp duty problem. Transfer of shares in government or state stocks in Nigeria. Any instrument on which the duty will be payable by Nigerian government cannot pay itself and collect itself. Any instrument in which the duty will be payable by any consular office because of inter-government arrangements. Any instrument executed on or before, on by or on behalf of a cooperative society under any law that established them. Shares, stocks, securities transferred by a lender to approved agent. Shares, stocks, or securities returned to a lender or its approved agent. Agreement or contract that relates to a property less than 10 million naira. Please note that less than 10 million. It's about 10 million naira, you charge stamp duty. Assignment by way of security that relates to a property of less than 10 million. Conveyance or transfer on sale that relates to a property of less than 10 million. Conveyance or transfer by way of security that relates to a property of less than 10 million. These are not dutable. Agreement or contracts that relate to a subject, the value of which is less than 1 million or higher of any laborer, employee, or manufacturer are not. Now, here are some miscellaneous provisions which you may want to look at. One is duplicate or counterpart of an instrument. Please watch this, pay attention here. The duplicate or counterpart of an instrument chargeable with duty shall not be deemed duly stamped or let it is stamped as an original instrument or certified by the relevant tax authority that the full duty on the original instrument has been paid. It is important you pay attention to this. Secondly, duty of one instrument that relates to more than one transaction. Where an instrument contains or relates to more than one transaction or several distinct matters, each transaction or distinct matter shall be charged to duty separately. It shall be charged to duty separately. Where multiple instruments chargeable with ad valorem duties are executed for effecting the same transaction, many instruments for one transaction. Only one of the instruments, as may be determined by the relevant authority, shall be charged with the ad valorem duty. Any other instrument aside by the one of the instruments for which has been charged advance shall be stamped as counterpart. Provision of non-monetary consideration. Where an instrument chargeable with an ad valorem duty consists of non-monetary consideration, the value shall be deemed as the market value of the consideration or the part thereof. Now, stamp duties, offenses, and penalties. Failure to stamp dutable instruments attracts 4 administrative penalties. If you refuse or fail to stamp your instrument that is supposed to be stamped, it attracts 4 penalties. And here are the 4 penalties. One, in civil proceedings, the unstamped instrument is not admissible in the law court. Court will not admit it. Two, payment of the amount of the unpaid duty. You will still pay the duty. Three, 10% of the unpaid duty as penalty. Three, interest at the prevailing monetary policy rate. And please remember that once you hear interest, the state authorities will always compute interest at compound basis, on compound basis. Failure to fully disclose all the facts and circumstances relating to digital instruments attract four penalties. First, payment of the amount due on the instrument, administrative penalty of just 100,000. On conviction, a fine of 50,000 naira or 3 years imprisonment or both. A person who attempts to reuse or reuses, affixes, offers for sale a used stamp or forges a stamp attracts two penalties. One is on conviction to imprisonment of 3 years or a fine of at least 2 million naira or both. Please don't forge stamps. Then here you have the list of the 22 interdependent compasses. And as usual, all you need to do is go through and select the one you want and go and watch the video. And please, if you want us to intervene in any particular tax matter or subject that is bothering you or you're having issues, please contact Taxcorp and we will do a video to clarify that particular matter. Then you want to still get to know about Taxcorp and the principal consultant. Taxcorp is a Nigerian tax consultancy firm which specializes in tax matters. Prince Chid, FCA, FCTIA, MBA, is the principal consultant. Prince Chid is a licensed fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria and Chartered Institute of Taxation, CITM. Taxcorp and Prince Chid have provided tax services to numerous individuals and corporate bodies in both the public and private sectors, locally and internationally, since 1990. Gentlemen and ladies, that's over 3 decades. The beneficiaries include the Nigerian Revenue Service, which was formerly the Federal Inland Revenue Service, Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission, RAMFAC, State Revenue, State Internal Revenue Services like Lagos State Internal Revenue Service, Kano, Abia, Enugu, and the Federal Capital Territory Internal Revenue Service here in Abuja and in Lagos. Many private companies and individuals which we have served. So, discrimination has been here. You have the details of Nigerian tax authority. You want to know more? You want to know more about this new Nigerian Tax Act? You want to know more about the Nigerian Tax Compass? You want to know more about Tax Corp? And if there is any matter, any tax subject that is bothering you, please contact us and we deal with that decisively. If there's anything that you want to get clarification on or you want a service, please contact Taxcorp. Thank you so much and have a good day.